Blog Talk Radio.
He's a big part of my life.
Rosalie Avala's parents broke down in tears as they spoke about their young daughter. The 13-year-old hung herself in her bedroom last month. Her father says bullying is to blame.
They told Rosalie, and they told my daughter Lonnie, and they told my daughter Angelina, oh, what did you do to deserve, what did you do? You had to have done something to make these kids do this to you.
They stood outside the Yucaipa-Calimesa School District alongside family, friends, and their lawyer, calling for change within the district. Brian Claypool is the Avala's lawyer. He says the school district knew she was being bullied for months and didn't do anything to protect her. He says Rosalie left a final note before taking her own life. In the note, she asked her parents not to show her picture at her own funeral.
The fact that this little girl would be so verbally abused at a school to a point where she writes a suicide note to her parents saying she doesn't even feel like she's worthy of a picture at her funeral speaks volumes.
The Yucaipa-Calimesa School District says their teachers and students are also mourning the loss of Rosalie. They released a statement that says, in part, we strive every day to be a safe, supportive, and engaging learning environment. We will continue to raise awareness and work with students and the community to support our children. Rosalie's mother says she will never stop fighting for justice for her daughter.
I brought her into this life, and all I can think of is just somebody like just ripping her off my arms, and just taking her, and that's how I feel, they took her from me.
Ladies and gentlemen of America, this is AJC Radio, where we bring the message of justice all around the world. Tonight, no exception, as we deal with the topic dealing with cyberbullying, bullying on social media, bullying in classrooms, in our schools, with our children. And I'll tell you what, the result is not a good one. Lives are being lost, body bags, if you will, of our children are being filled as we continue this epidemic of bullying. How do we stop it? How do we address it? That's our topic tonight. We kick off right now. Hello, and I'm Lamont Banks along with Cliff Stewart, Lisa Stewart, Dennis Merritt, William Williams, and the entire AJC radio team, as tonight we address a troubling issue. As we just spoke moments ago, and in that clip you heard at the opening of this program, I'll tell you what, folks, this is something that is serious, and we're finding our young people leaning towards suicide because the pressure, because of the bullying has hit such a level of abuse, if you will. Our youngsters are feeling like the only way out is to take their life, and that is something that just cannot be an option for our kids. William, this is something very serious, and we have found, and you're going to hear tonight on this program, as we'll be joined by guests who I'll let you know who they are momentarily, who are dealing with issues with this bullying situation. I believe this month they mark really bullying prevention. And we recognize the fact, the importance of preventing bullying in our society, but let alone in our schools. These are 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that are taking their lives.
And younger than that. I mean, there's a story that's going on. 8-year-old young boy had committed suicide because of bullying. And when you're talking about this, it's incredible to think that this is impacting our youth. And it has no age range. It has no gender range. I mean, kids they're taking out, I think, a lot of their aggression and things, and they're using social media to do this, and really becoming very cruel in what they're doing and what they're saying, and to the point where these kids are saying, "I have no way out." We heard the clip earlier where it talked about, the school district knew of this situation, and so how are we handling it? How do we handle it as adults? How do we handle it in the schools? There's a lot of things that need to be done, and we need to talk about it.
Well, it's something that's not being handled initially by apparently it's not being handled as it should be. When you have youngsters taking their lives, the young lady said, the little girl said, "Do not put a picture of myself up at my funeral," and this is because of the negative, cruel things that people were saying about her in her school, on social media for a youngster to say, I'm going to take my life, but I have the conscience of the mind to put on that letter, please don't put a picture of me, even as I'm taking my life. The impact of that bullying is very, very clear. Dennis, your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, it's a lot of lives being lost, and I think we really need to look at our policies in our schools to make sure, first of all, we define bullying, and then we make sure that it's not tolerated, period. And if it is tolerated, there are consequences. And until we do that, until we put that in place in all schools, we're going to continue to have the problem because not only are they're being bullied in school, but of course you know about cyberbullying with our social network, with social media. Kids are bullying each other. Parents, teachers are even afraid, because sometimes the teachers are being bullied. But when we put in a policy and we says it will not be tolerated and that there are consequences, that's going to force parents to really make sure, hey, when I send you to school, I'm not sending you to school to bully another student, one of your peers. So I think as we get in it tonight and we hear the different stories from different parents, we really got to come up with a solution, and that means that bullying will not be tolerated, period. We will enforce. There will be actions. There will be consequences if someone is found to have bullied someone.
No, absolutely right. And I'll tell you what, we're going to be joined by a couple of folks tonight. Ebony Robinson's going to be joining us, telling her story of her 7-year-old daughter was bullied. I'm going to let her get into that. We're going to be joined also by Jessie Klein. She'll be joining us as well later in the program. And then after the top of the hour, we're going to be joined by Michelle Malinek, who will be joining us. And she is actually has a master's in actually counseling, addressing issues from the University of Phoenix, and nationally certified counselor and licensed professional counselor. These are people who are knowing the impact of what's happening in this area. I met a lady today, ironically, telling her about this show tonight, and she began to explain to me that her son was bullied and really on a, if I remember correctly, on basically a 2-year suicide watch back and forth, where she said she had to leave her job to care for him, to make sure he would be okay. He's apparently doing really good right now. Actually headed to being part of the special forces of our military, and has really motivated himself. So every story doesn't end bad, but what he went through will hopefully give him an opportunity and a platform to help others that are facing these issues, and to be able to, right now just bust up to death a workout specimen, if you will, but he was picked on all this time. So there's a lot of things that can happen one way that it can go, and it can go actually another way. Cliff, your thoughts as we address this issue, and I think everybody on this panel, other than myself, has children. Tell us a little bit how important this is, that we address this issue, that our youngsters don't really get caught up in this situation.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, the administrations, whether it's at the school, the library, you have even public places like, the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA, places that matter. You have to have staff members. You have to have administration that put in place, the policy that bullying will not be tolerated. You have some places that they're just not trained to even understand what bullying is. And, they have ways that they deal with different situations. But when you take one person and basically, you're punishing that person against, and the crowd is against them, and you're punishing them for something that they did not do, but the crowd basically ostracizing them, that is bullying. And you need to have personnel in place that understand how to deal with that, understand how to diffuse those situations. And, we have to have training starting in the home, obviously, but in our public schools as well, where you teach kids what is accepted and what is not, and how to respond to bullying. And, I think that's very, very important.
Okay, and a correction on this, Stand Up to Bullying Day is tomorrow, June 13th. Stand Up to Bullying Day was started in 2016 by the Diana Award with HRH, the Duke of Cambridge, to bring the country together and raise awareness as to what bullying is, how it occurs, and what to do about it. Last year saw a reach of 10 million people from across the UK, around the world, to include the United States. Help us beat that number and set it for Community of Kindness this June. So tonight we do it basically because we don't have a show on Wednesday, but we honor this effort tonight here on AJC Radio. And it just calls we speak out against bullying. We condemn bullying on any level. And you're going to hear some stories tonight that are going to be heart-wrenching in regards to that. Really quick, some current events going on in our nation. As you all know, William, I'll let you speak to this. President Trump, the summit of summits, they call it, questions what comes out of it, but something that has never been done took place in our country last night, or whatever Singapore time was.
Right.
I had an opportunity to look at some of that. It was history in the making, and we'll see. It was a different type of picture to see, but you have to give credit here somewhere, because this has never happened under any presidency in our history. Your thoughts on that?
Well, and it's a good thing. You know, when there are good things happen, you have to point those out. And like you said, this is historic. Kim Jong-un and the regime of North Korea has long sat behind the wall and kind of been off to themselves, and been a power there. And so now they're breaking those barriers and opening up doors, and that's a good thing. So they're really looking at this to kind of snowball, saying hopefully this will be a good relationship, a new thing, continue to build the relationship between the countries, start tearing down. I think one of the comments that I heard today on the news was that, this may curtail some of the war gaming that we participate in over there. And that was, that's some backlash on that.
Well, from what I understand, President Trump has stopped the you call it the war game situation, exercises that were happening in South Korea. That has been stopped, according to President Trump. And the events that came out of this meeting, which they both kind of agreed to stop that. Now, look, we don't live in a world of naivety. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, what occurs. But at least a step was taken that has not been taken in the history of our nation. And it's due noting that did happen. I didn't even know that the leader of Korea ever smiled until yesterday. It's a different picture, no matter how you look at it. And like I said, hopefully, because I think at the end of the day, we want peace in this world. And it's going to take people coming to the table and at least having a discussion, whether that goes there or not. But you got to start somewhere, and that's a good thing. Dennis, your thoughts?
I agree. I agree. A little optimism there, but we'll see what happens. At least they came together. They talked. There was a summit again, something that hasn't happened.
Right.
So there's a start. We'll keep our eyes open and ears open, and see what comes of it. Hopefully, it brings about peace in that region. And again, we'll wait and see what happens.
Okay, and Hurricane Bud, now a Category 4 storm forecast, looking to hit Mexico's Baja area. They say it may weaken at that time. Folks, it is hurricane season, and here they come. And let's hope there's some preparation and things done. There's some fear out there regarding Puerto Rico, who is always in the line of fire when it comes to hurricanes, that they had not fully recovered, not even close, and may be facing, as this hurricane season advances, some issues. So we got to hope for the best there and hope that things are in place to avoid. I don't know how you recover from another hurricane coming. And it's again, this is not headed for. But as these hurricanes start,
right,
they just begin to just keep coming.
Right.
So we're our prayers and thoughts go out to the Puerto Rican people. Hopefully, there's some help, some aid to try to get them in position. And what do you do when you're dealing with the elements and things like that? But again, we'll see how this season plays out. And this is AJC Radio, folks. We're coming back dealing with an issue. Get the kids, get everybody around to hear this conversation tonight. Bullying in America, the epidemic out of control, and the cost that it's bringing in losing lives. We'll be right back. This is AJC Radio. Do you have a big brother? Well, I have a big brother, and I'm pretty sure that you and I experience some of the same things.
with a big brother. Big brothers will always be big brothers, right? I'm sure you'll agree. Well, my brother gets up in the morning. He takes a shower, heads to work, and at some point during the day, he's going to exercise and get that workout, as we all do. And, of course, depending on what's going on, he's going to sit down for 2 or 3 meals during the course of his day. And also, depending on what else is going on, he'll probably get caught up on current events and maybe take a few moments to turn a page in a book. How about your big brother? Some of the same stuff, right? Oh, did I mention that my big brother does all of that stuff, but he actually has to have permission a lot of times before he can do it? You see, my big brother was wrongfully convicted of a crime that he did not commit. That's right. That may sound shocking, huh? He's in prison. Wrongful convictions impact families in ways you cannot begin to imagine. But I've decided that I'm going to do something about it. And I extend an invitation to you to come on board and join me in this fight. You see, I'm helping to be a voice for my big brother and others who have been wrongfully convicted. We'd like you to take a few moments today and call a Just Cause, where we fight for justice. You can call us toll free at 1-855-529-4252. That's 1-855-529-4252. Join with us as we fight for justice and for all big brothers across the land.
You must have thrown 1,000 pitches teaching him to hit a home run. Spent countless Saturdays running routes so he could learn to hit an open receiver. Endless afternoons teaching him how to hit the three-pointer. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit? Teaching boys that all violence against women is wrong is one of the most important things a man can do. Learn how to start the conversation at teachearly.org. Brought to you by Futures Without Violence and the Ad Council.
Here are 50 white guys. Here are 50 black guys. Here's how many white guys can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. The chances amount to 1 out of 17. Now here's how many black guys can expect the same thing. The chances are 1 out of 3. Why? Lots of reasons. It's complicated, but one thing is clear. There's racial bias at every level of the criminal justice system. When blacks and whites commit the same kind of crimes, blacks are more likely to be arrested. Once arrested, they're more likely to be convicted. Once convicted, they're more likely to serve longer sentences. Look at the numbers in America's so-called war on drugs. About 14% of American drug users are black, as are about a quarter of drug sellers. Yet blacks are 34% of the people arrested for drug crimes. And those convicted of drug crimes, 46% are black. By the time we factor in sentencing, there are actually more black drug offenders than white ones in state prison and in federal prison. In the end, the incarceration rate for drug crimes is 10 times higher for blacks than it is for whites. These are the facts. Racial disparity in America's war on drugs is one big reason that 1 out of 3 black men can expect to go to prison in their lifetime.
I wanted to be in the military since I was a kid.
I served in the United States Air Force.
I served a total of 16 years.
I was deployed 13 times.
On my second deployment, 4 bombs hit my vehicle.
And at 19 years old, that's the first time I ever saw somebody die.
Coming back, I was raging.
I started having pretty horrible nightmares.
I would wake up in the middle of the night, sweats.
I started drinking a lot.
I felt worthless.
I guess I never recognized it in myself.
Eventually, one day I just walked into the VA hospital and said I'd like to see somebody.
Don't suffer alone. You got to find that link with somebody that'll make you let it go.
It all starts with going to the VA. There's a whole community of veterans that just want to help you out.
It's for the guys who couldn't come back, so you owe it to them to live well, because they're not here with their families.
whiskey, then we'll talk about it.
I've got to go home. Oh, come on, Carrie. We're going to a new place.
She wants to go home, right? Let's go. Yeah, hold it. Whoa! You okay to drive? Yeah, I'm fine. You sure?
Relax.
What's a few beers?
If you don't stop your friend from drinking and driving, you're as good as dead. Drinking and driving can kill a friendship.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of America. This is AJC Radio. Tonight, addressing an issue that definitely is in need of discussion. That is bullying across this country that is continuing to grow out of control. Tomorrow, we recognize prevention of bullying that was started back in 2016, and it was Stand Up to Bullying Day. And tomorrow marks that day to stand up to bullying. It was started in 2016 by the Diana Award, the Duke of Cambridge, to bring the country together and raise awareness as to what bullying is, how it occurs, and what we can do about it. A lot of this, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we're dealing with elementary school students, middle school students. A lot of this information needs to be definitely instilled in our children from home. And I'm not blaming the parents necessarily. But we have to take a look back and say, what are we doing as parents that to ensure that if our kids go out and begin to bully other children, that this is something they have chosen to do on their own, and it is not about what I am instilling in my kids before they leave home every day for school. When I was a youngster coming up, my mom and dad always instilled in us to never mistreat people. Do not be mean to people. Don't look down on people because they're maybe from a different social status or whatever. You just don't. It was not something that we, and I don't think any of my siblings ever had an issue to look down, to mistreat, to pick on kids. It was actually quite the opposite. We actually, at least I did, I sought those kids out to help them. I remember one day I was in high school. They had this young lady. She was very, very overweight. And I'm telling you, when she came out from I'll never forget it, came out from getting her lunch, and she get ready to go sit down and eat, the people would scatter from the table and laugh and tease. And this was when I was in 10th grade. And I remember I was so troubled by that. And I remember going up there and I sat down with her, and the other people started looking really, really, I'd say ignorant. And I sat down and I talked to her and I said, hey, I'll sit down and eat lunch with you. And we sat down and had a conversation, and you would be surprised how quick from that moment that she opened up, began to talk about what her likes were, what she was trying to pursue as far as college, when she got out of high school. But this girl never, if you ever saw her outside of that moment, you never saw her talk, you never saw her engage. And I'll tell you what, it takes a little bit of kindness. And I think we've lost that golden rule. You know what you learned in third grade? I remember my music teacher pulled me out. Listen, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. The golden rule in third grade, we recited that every day in third grade. And you know what? It's the simple things that our society has left that has created, I believe, a lot of the problems that we have. It's not some great thing that needs to be done. It's something as simple as the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And this is something that is tragic. It really is saddening. And I was beginning to research for this show, and you're hearing kids, parents finding their kids that have killed themselves because somebody couldn't just do something as simple as the golden rule. Something as simple to say, I'm going to be kind today. Where have we come as a society? Where have we come as people that kindness is something that is frowned upon when it's done? It's a tragic thing. William, your thoughts?
Well, even as you were talking, I was thinking there's a sense of entitlement now that didn't exist when we were in school. These kids are walking around now, and they got cell phones and all kinds of things, gadgets, and it shows, I think, at some level of status. They have the new model phone. They have this model. They're driving a car, a newer car, as compared to when I was coming up. I didn't have a car, but they have the right clothes and things like that. And so I think they live with a level of entitlement. It makes them feel like they're better. And I know when I was coming up, my mother was a school teacher. And so she shared with me a lot about the struggles that these kids were going through because of their family. They had to have some assistance. Sometimes, I gave my clothes and things like that to help kids.
Sure.
And she was quick to tell me, and even my dad was like, "Listen, that could be you." You know what I'm saying? You're very fortunate to be in the situation that you are, and you have opportunity to go to school and better yourself. And but don't for once take it for granted. And and that was the way I was raised. So I think right now these kids, if you look at it, I mean, they got Xboxes, they got all these things, their gadgets and things like that they can sit there and say, I got this, you don't. I have the latest game, you don't. I drive this, you don't. And it's sad, but that's where we are today.
And I believe the culture is changing. But if you, I think another big piece is, again, first of all, you got to educate. We always talk about education on this show because some people, don't even know what bullying is. But again, we have to really look at when kids seek help, they have to be taken seriously. And I know when I was going to school, somebody did something to me, I go to the teacher, they pretty much look at me like, okay, handle it. Okay, and that's when you get these school shootings because they probably went to their parent or something like that, and they said, come on, now handle it. Okay, I'll handle it. You want me to handle it? I'll do that. But that means that we need to be able to hear the cries of our children.
That's true.
Those that are in a position and they're being asked for help, they need to respond. I mean, we need to take every any kid coming saying, hey, I've been bullied, we need to take it seriously.
Well, let's hear a little bit about bullying and the death toll in America's schools. Let's hear a little bit about that right now.
Kids being bullied, sometimes to death. It is a story you see in nearly every headline today, but sadly, it's a story we were covering as long as 18 years ago, right here on 2020.
And yet there's certainly nothing old about this problem. In fact, it seems the passage of time has only made bullying worse. Listen to this. 160,000 kids a day miss school because they're too afraid to go. But it only takes one child lost to destroy a family. Until now, you've heard mostly about the victims, but tonight we'll also hear from the bullies themselves. Why do they do it? And more importantly, what do they say is the solution?
Hey, Kim. It's alarm clock, our first alarm clock. Yay!
Keep going.
See, I can do it.
David and Tina Long adored their 17-year-old son, Tyler.
He was the type of individual that could be in the middle of the crowd, not know nobody's name, not know anything about him, and strike up a conversation and be just so at ease.
You envied that about him?
I envied that. I mean, because that's not me. That was him.
Made you proud?
Made me proud.
Tyler enjoyed normal kid things like karate,
Guess what, Dad? I'm winning!
video games, even aspired to go to college.
You doing your homework?
All the more impressive because Tyler had Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism, which Mom says gave him a unique personality.
And what did that mean in terms of his daily life in school? What would the kids say? What would they do?
He would point out the rules to him quite a bit. Asperger's kids are very rule-oriented. They like things the same every day. And so if someone was talking in class, I know that he would say, we're not supposed to be talking. That's the rule. And, I think that just irritated a lot of them. They saw him as something different than what they were.
What Mom saw as a virtue made Tyler a target at school.
They would take his things from him, spit in his food, call him gay, faggot. And just from one day to the next, it was continuous harassment from the other kids in the classroom.
The Longs say this was a constant, well-known pattern of bullying that they brought to the school's attention, but nothing happened.
He started complaining to the school very early on.
Right away?
Yes,
yeah.
Right away.
And what did they say?
You get the same old adage, boys will be boys. How can I stop every kid from saying things that shouldn't be said? What do you want me to do, Mr. and Mrs. Long? I've done all I can.
They say this went on for years, and eventually their fun-loving son disappeared.
I just remember the last couple of weeks looking back that it wasn't there. I mean, he just seemed like he was a hollow person.
They had taken something from him.
They had took his pride from him.
On October 17th, 2 months into his junior year, Tyler Long changed out of his pajamas into his favorite t-shirt and jeans, strapped a belt around his neck, and hanged himself from the top shelf in his bedroom closet.
So I stepped into the room, and I found Tyler in the closet. At that point in time, I rushed over here, picked Tyler up, tried to relieve pressure off his neck, and I started screaming for Tina. I couldn't get the belt off his neck. Troy brought me a knife, and I cut the belt off his neck, laying down. We checked to see if he was still alive, but it was too late.
Even after Tyler's death, the Longs say school officials denied any wrongdoing.
The perception that the school is a haven for bullies is just not true. Do we have some bullying problems? I'm sure we do. All school systems do. But it is a major overarching concern in our high school. No, it is not.
The Longs say the school even refused to have a moment of silence in Tyler's honor. So they say they were forced to file a lawsuit to get some answers.
You try to change the law. You try to change perspective. You try to change administrators, teachers, anybody who comes in contact with these kids. And if we have to start where we live, in our county, in our town, that's where we'll start.
Do you think about what is the message you would want to have given Tyler if he would have known where he was, if he would have known where his pain was taking him?
If I had to do it all over again, and I knew what I know now, he probably wouldn't be in that school.
And if he would have come home and said, "Can I please drop out of school?" At this point today, okay.
The thing that I think was so hard was seeing so many families and kids that just can't get heard.
Lee Hirsch has spent the past year working on the Bully Project.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me.
Embedded in the homes of families like the Longs.
He will. He'll post that.
No matter how many times the parents have been to the school, how many phone calls, how many letters, their child is still being taunted, being harassed, being called names, being physically assaulted on nearly a daily basis.
So troubling a trend, the media started keeping a body count, beginning with Phoebe Prince. At only 15 years old, she killed herself, supposedly after being called an Irish slut constantly at school.
Unrelenting bullying, online and off, is what drove South Hadley High School freshman Phoebe Prince to hang herself in January.
A band of Massachusetts teens will stand trial, having pleaded not guilty to charges of criminal harassment. And in just the last month, 5 kids have taken their own lives, all related to bullying.
Whose death has sparked a vast debate over gay bullying.
Years of bullying.
Unpunished bullying.
18-year-old Tyler Clementi, the latest to lose his battle. The college freshman in New Jersey jumped off this bridge. Reports soon surfaced the cause may have been his humiliation at being exposed online by classmates who secretly videotaped him during a sexual encounter with another man. Kids whose lives were over before they'd barely begun. Families left with nothing but painful memories, like the Longs.
It's hard. And our lives will never be the same. But this is a special room for me. I mean, me and Tyler spend a lot of time in here playing video games, talking. And I miss my son. I always will.
But that sense of loss was somehow not shared by all.
students coming forward and saying that other students, including some of the bullies, wore nooses around their necks after they had learned of his death to school and got away with it.
Well, there you have it. Tragic. Around 1 in 3 students experience bullying through the academic year. Only 15% of students admit to being cyberbullied. 61% of overweight teens have reported being bullied online. 70% of K through 12 kids have witnessed cyberbullying take place. Only 10% of cyberbullying victims will report to an adult about getting cyberbullied. Females are 2 times more likely to be victims of cyberbullying. Kids are 7 times more likely to experience cyberbullying from friends than strangers. And cyberbullying victims are 2 to 9 times more likely to contemplate suicide. In this case, the young man Taylor took his life. Tragic. All because people are, and they said they spit in his food. They were cruel to him. This discussion has to happen. Something has to be done. Right now, we are honored and privileged to bring online with us tonight Ebony Robinson, who I've had the privilege of contacting through social media and have had an opportunity, and we wanted to invite her on this show to tell her story of what was going on with her and her daughter. Ebony, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Ebony, thank you so much for taking time to be a part of this program tonight, and I'll let you introduce yourself to our listeners across this nation and tell the story of what's been going on with you and your daughter's life in regards to this topic.
Hi, I'm Ebony Robinson. I'm a single parent of a 7-year-old little girl who is slightly overweight, and I say slightly because I was a heavy little girl myself. And she's taller and bigger than most of her classmates. It all started her first year of school. They used to tease her about being heavy, and it got to the point where she was coming home off the bus, and she didn't want to ride the bus, and she was crying all the time. And last year, she was being teased at lunch about being heavy, and the guidance counselor called me and was like, I need you to come to the school and talk to me because Avea has talked about killing herself because the kids are teasing her about her weight. And it continued on, and then she became like friends with them, and then it was continuing like doing sports like kickball. They told her she couldn't play kickball because she was too fat and she was too slow to run. And just last month, she had an experience where 3 little girls were all in the bathroom and they threw her book bag in the toilet, and that was my last straw. And I started speaking out about it, and a lot of people, were coming to me like, oh, I'm sorry this happened. It has happened to my child. And I was like, well, y'all have to speak up. So I took it upon myself to go live on Facebook, and I just was being hit up. And then one of my friends reached out to you all and got me linked up to you all because there's a lot of kids out here that's going through it. And as listening to your pre-broadcast, like there's a lot of kids that have gone through it. And I feel like if a parent just speaks up one time, this shouldn't be a life taken because we're different. So
no, absolutely.
That's my story.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ebony, I appreciate your courage. And what is your daughter's name?
Her name is Avea.
Avea. How is she doing now?
She's doing pretty good. It's like, I think after, I spoke up about it because I left a lot of things hidden, with the whole her thinking about committing suicide. I never told no one until I went live on Facebook. And I guess a lot of the parents have talked to some of their students, their kids and things, their teachers, and I had deacons and deaconess at my church that talked to the head people of the church, of the school and of the school board, and a lot of things have changed. It's still some minor issues with her weight that, the kids are now calling her Big Mama. And I told her that's not okay.
It's not okay.
Her name is Avea.
Avea, and we'll give Avea our best and let her know that we are definitely behind her. And at the end of the day, people are different. And the fact that these are the things that trouble us. And I appreciate you reaching out to AJC Radio Just Cause, because we are about putting this information out across this nation. People need to have a discussion. If that is your daughter, how do you feel? And that's what you have to tell these parents. If
And
you,
see, with me,
yes.
excuse me, sir, I'm sorry to cut you off. With me, I was being bullied in school, and then I became the bully because I was getting tired of being bullied. So I felt like I had to be the bully to fit in. So when I became the bully, because people were telling me, oh, you're too big to be crying because someone is teasing you, or you're too big to do this, and I was doing everything in my nature that I was big enough, that I thought I was big enough to do, and that was fighting boys, fighting girls, you know, other kids who were less fortunate than myself. So being a mother of a child being bullied, I see what those kids went through when I was in school, so that would really touch me.
Right. And I think it is true. If this is the sadness of the situation, in my opinion, and it tells us where we are as a country and as a people. If you have to feel like, or any of us have to feel like bullying others is a way to fit in with the crowd, that tells me one thing: the majority are bullying.
Yes.
Otherwise, we don't feel the need to fit in. To fit into the crowd is what everybody else is doing, right?
Right.
So if that is our position, we have a problem in this country. As bullying becomes so normal, they call it, you hear people say sometimes, this is the new normal. This can't be the new normal, right?
It can't be.
Unbelievable. And I think your voice, social media is something. You can make a difference, put stuff out there. And it brought us together to have this discussion, to have this show, to say, look, there's a lot of Avas out there. And how many, thank God, Ebony, that in your case, that was stopped. But for some of the people you'll hear about tonight on this show, they didn't get there in time. And I'm grateful, I'm really grateful tonight that you took it upon yourself to be a voice. I said it once, I'll say it again. And this to every listener out there listening to the show, you do not have the right to remain silent. Not in this case.
Right.
You have to speak, because silence can be deadly. It can be deadly. And we're learning that. Let me ask you a question, Ebony. What was the reception? You said things have changed at the school. What is the reception? What was the reception initially at the school? Were they defensive, or did they say, you know what, let's work together and change this? What did you encounter there?
They called me the next day. The assistant principal called me. She's best friends with one of the deaconess at my church. She called me and she said, this is an ongoing problem, not just here, it's everywhere. And she basically offered some counseling with the guidance counselor with my daughter. My daughter was going twice a week just to see where her head was at. And they was very accepting of my side of the story, and they really did help. The local Boys and Girls Club, as well as where she was getting most of the bullying and taunting done to her, they were really accepting. And I wanted to do an anti-bullying rally here in my hometown, and they were willing to give me the building to do the anti-bullying rally. So they was really accepting of it. And then I was reached out by a couple of other people who do things around for bullying, and they do it once a year, and they want me to come out and speak. As a mother of a bully, as a bullied child, and as a bully. So when they do that, I will be speaking in that. But they were very accepting and very helpful.
That's very good, and it's something that's refreshing that people are not, you heard on the first, I don't know if you heard the clip, but the first clip we played, they stated that the school said, well, we don't believe we have a problem. Everybody has bullying.
Yeah, it's just a local community where people are saying, well, kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to do things. Kids do things they see on TV. They say things they hear other people saying. So that's just that. But like a lot of the people from the school system and a lot of people from the Boys and Girls Club was very accepting to my side of the story. And I went on here and I wrote a letter and I printed it off and I posted it in every local store to let them know my story, because I know my daughter's not the only child that's going through this. And I had one mother, I tried to get her to join me tonight. She had to work, but she was telling me that her daughter, she's quietly over, her and my daughter, they favor a lot, and they're both overweight. And she's just a grade ahead of my daughter. And the little girls took her shoes off when she was coming down the slide, and they ran around the playground and were laughing about it because she couldn't keep up with them to catch for her shoes. And I was like, just me speaking up, I got to hear that story. It's like I said, it's not one child that's going through this, and it was like a domino effect with me. So a lot of things are changing.
That's good.
So,
listen, we want an opportunity, and please let me tell you this. Whenever you want a platform here at AJC Radio, different things that are going on, AJC Radio supports your efforts. We join with you as advocates for change. And if we can be of any help, we're more than happy to do that to all of our listeners across the United States and around the globe to get your message out and the message of what tomorrow stands for, stand up to bullying. And that's what I believe that's what you've done. We had a lot of silent advocates, really, I don't want to say silent advocates, but I want to say advocates that are in the background, that are doing a lot. I think you're someone that took on advocacy involuntarily because of what happened to your daughter. You have that's how advocacy is born, through injustice, through wrong. People are saying, you know what, we cannot tolerate such action. And I can tell you, Ebony, we salute you tonight for what you've done, what you continue to do. And we definitely stand in support of your efforts and what's going on.
Thank you. And I really had to. I felt like I really needed to speak up because the day after all this happened with my daughter was the day the Texas school shooting went on for bullying. I believe it was bullying was the reason why the young man shot those 10 people.
Okay.
And I was just like, I can't keep my mouth closed. I just can't keep my mouth closed because who knows? My daughter could be the next child wanting to shoot the school up because of how she feels and how somebody else is making her feel. So I was like, I just can't keep my mouth closed.
Well, listen, we're glad you didn't stay silent, and we're glad you opened your mouth and told everybody about this. And I think it's vitally important. I believe we're going to visit this topic again. How can folks get a hold of you if they want to become a part of what you're doing? How can they reach you?
They can reach me at my Gmail. That's akr@gmail.com. They can reach me on Facebook. Ebony Robinson on Facebook, and that's Ebony with an IE because a lot of people want to spell it with Y. And that's about it.
Ebony,
I don't have a Twitter and I don't have an Instagram.
Okay. Listen, we're going to be coming back on the other side of the break. We're going to actually be bringing another guest. Jesse Klein's going to be joining us. Did you want to stay in the conversation? We'd be more than happy to bring you back. I don't want to hold you up on your evening. I know you're on the East Coast there, so I know it's getting close to 9 o'clock.
It's about 9 o'clock here, and I have to work in the morning, but I'll join you the next time.
Okay. Hey, thank
but
you,
I
Ebony.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate you. And give Eva our best, okay?
All right. You have a good one.
Right. Sure. There you have it, folks. What a story, and really a story of courage that took place here. Right now, we're going to take a quick break. We're coming back with Jessie Klein. She is Associate Professor of Sociology and Criminal Justice. We'll get her viewpoint as we address an epidemic that we're hoping to put the brakes on, and that's bullying in America. We'll be right back. For a kid whose mom or dad is in prison, life is tough. Now, add a wrongful conviction to that, life just got a little bit tougher. Trying to explain to friends why mom or dad is not at the school play or at the ball game is something that no kid should ever be faced with, especially if mom or dad is innocent. Ladies and gentlemen, get involved today to stop the epidemic of wrongful convictions by remembering a Just Cause with a monthly, annual, or one-time donation. You can help in the fight against wrongful convictions. Call a Just Cause today, 1-855-529-4252. We seek justice for the children as they go to bed at night and mom's not there, dad's not in the other room to make them feel safe. Not because dad or mom did anything wrong, because justice could not be found. Join us for the children, for they truly are our future.
You can't sit here.
Don't add her to the chain.
It was just a joke. We're not friends. Why are you talking to me? You started it. It's so gross. Lame. Loser. Weird.
Weird Al.
I've said and done things before that I'm not proud of.
Just as I've been hurt by others. The thing is, this is not who I am, and it's definitely not who I want to be.
I don't want to be cruel. I don't want to spread gossip.
I don't want to be a body shamer. I don't want to exclude anyone.
I don't want to make anyone feel lonely.
Left out, hurt. We have the power to be more. We can create a kinder world. It's not that hard. We just need to stop.
Take a moment and consider others before we speak.
And before we act, be more.
Be more.
Be more.
There's a lot of mud when it rains here, and it makes it really hard to find food. There are car bombs every day. My mom worries about me when I go out. Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid. Sometimes I have nightmares about it. A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close. My dad says we have to leave, which makes me scared. I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us. What if they don't understand our religion? Because we don't speak the language, it might be hard for me to make friends. But I know it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words. These are not my words. These are not my words.
Hey guys, I'm Jordan Clark.
I'm Chase Crawford. Hey, what's up? It's Usher.
Hi, I'm Rachel Bilson.
I'm Hayden Christensen. I'm Peyton Manning.
Hey, we're Fall Out Boy.
I'm Dude Archuleta.
I'm Corbin Blue.
I'm Kristen Bell.
And we're the Jonas Brothers.
Do something good for your community.
Reuse bags and bottles and always recycle. Help us collect 1 million pounds of food.
Help people prepare for natural disasters.
Do something about homelessness.
Anyone could be a rock star in their community.
So then do something.
Do something.
Do something. Do something.
Visit DoSomething.org to find out how.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to AJC Radio, as tonight bullying takes center stage in the conversation as we talk about the impact of bullying across this nation and really among our young people has become an epidemic. Stand Up to Bullying Day begins tomorrow, Wednesday, June 13th, and it was started in 2016 by the Diana Award with HRH, the Duke of Cambridge, to bring the country together, raise awareness as to what bullying is, how it occurs, and what to do about it. Last year, they saw a reach of 10 million people and counting from across the UK and around the world, to include, of course, the U.S., and to help us beat the number this year as people come out in recognition, standing up to Bullying Day. And again, that whatever's going on in your community, your area, please get involved and be a voice that is vocal against this. Because guess what? At the end of the day, lives will be saved as a result of folks standing up to bullying. It's critically important. Dennis, your thoughts so far as we've gone into this? And we're getting ready to bring our real quick. I'm sorry, Dennis. Yeah. We're getting ready to bring Jessie Klein. Let's bring her in first, Dennis.
Yes.
And then we'll come back to you. And she is Associate Professor of Sociology, Criminal Justice, and she's going to have something to say here in regards to the topic tonight as it takes center stage here on AJC Radio. And Jessie, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Jessie, thank you so much for joining us tonight as we've been in conversation. Not quite sure of how much you've heard thus far. And Ebony Robinson tells her story about her 7-year-old daughter who was bullying. And if I'm not mistaken, 7 years old now, was contemplating suicide at the age of 7.
Yeah.
At the age of 7. And let me welcome you really quick to our show. We thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to give you the floor to introduce yourself, tell the folks about you, and exactly as we get into this conversation, how you contribute to hopefully trying to institute change from your end. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Jessie Klein. I'm a professor at Adelphi University in sociology and criminal justice, and I wrote a book called The Bully Society, School Shootings and the Crisis of Bullying in America's Schools. And I have another book coming out soon called The Bullying Reference Handbook with ABC CLIO. And I also have a chart of 195 school shootings that took place between 1979 and 2008, looking at the causes of school shootings and specifically the relationship to bullying and the kinds of bullying that have led to some of the most heinous school shootings that we've seen as they increase from decade to decade.
And may I call you Jesse? I know it's Jesse Klein, but
Absolutely, yeah.
Jesse, as we've seen, we definitely want your expertise on this. As we look back at Columbine, for instance, a lot of the kids, that was the first time I heard really in detail that these kids were picked on. When they came to school that day, they said, we're not doing it anymore. We're going to basically pay back those that had mistreated us or were mean to us or were bullying us. And I remember one young lady that they approached, let her go and said, "You never one time. You were always kind to us. You always." I guess the gunman told her that you were always nice to me. Get out of here. And
the sad thing is it continues because there was just a school shooting in February by Nicholas Cruz who killed 17 people and injured 17 others, and he had been bullied and ostracized. And there was another one in last year at the end of the year in September, a boy named Caleb Sharp, who said the kid he killed had bullied him, and he committed the school shooting to, quote unquote, teach everyone a lesson about what happens when you bully others. There's a very, very disturbing relationship between the kids who are bullied and the kids who come back and shoot up their schools. And it's something we can't afford to do anymore in our, in this country. We need to be doing much more. And unfortunately, what most schools do is they create these zero tolerance policies. Nicholas Cruz, for instance, had been expelled, but these kinds of policies don't help at all. And in fact, like in that situation, many kids who have been expelled or suspended come back with more vengeance and more rage and, set on revenge. And it actually just makes the whole situation worse. I actually have a program that I created called Creating Compassionate Communities. And what I do is I go into schools and teach empathy building. And my research by many others has shown that the only real way to eliminate school bullying, decrease school bullying, is by schools working very hard with families to create more caring, supportive school environments.
Question, Jesse, and Dennis is going to have a question for you really quick. You said the folks that come back to the school and do the shooting from being bullied, they are the ones that are suspended during the school year. Whatever came up, they get suspended and expelled because they're tagged as troubled kids. Am I hearing that right?
Well, there are lots of different situations. So there are a lot of kids who have been suspended for all kinds of different things. Maybe they had a weapon, or maybe they got into a fight, and then they come back and shoot up the schools. Some school shootings are directly about bullying, and some are actually kids who feel bullied by the school for expelling them or suspending them, or, that kind of thing. So, my point is just that this is a very destructive way of addressing the situation. And often, there's a dynamic called bully-victim, where kids who are victimized become bullies and are still victimized, and it goes back and forth. So the line between who's the bully and who's the victim isn't always that clear. The larger point is that hurtful behavior at schools is tolerated. And often people say, well, this is bullying and this is not, and this is just teasing, when schools should really be helping kids grow up to be compassionate, kind people. And any kind of hurtful behavior should be addressed so that students feel it is their responsibility to care about one another, to support one another, and to stand up for each other. And that's my point, is that the suspensions and the expulsions and all that just make things much worse and make people feel more alienated and more excluded and more angry.
Oh, absolutely. Dennis?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jesse. One of the things I was thinking about is when you were talking is education.
think we really need to make sure not only our children but our teachers are educated, on the consequences, on what happens. I mean, with all these, suicides and school shootings, we got to come to a place that, first of all, we got to admit we have a problem. And then, as the lady was talking earlier, Ebony said that, if you go to somebody for help and you don't get help and you continue to get bullied, you then become the bully because you got to say, okay, I got to protect myself. So now you're out there, you think the only solution is to, I got to fight. Most people don't want to flight. They don't want to run. So we're going to fight. And now we have these major incidents. And again, how do we fix that? I mean, it's got to be something. It's got to be somewhere in there that we do say, make sure that our children and that our parents understand that, there are consequences when you bully someone. Do you agree?
Well, I think, I think the beginning part is to try to prevent the behavior. And when there are consequences, the consequences need to be constructive. There are some phenomenal programs in some New York City schools focused on restorative justice. So if any kid is hurtful to another student, they have the whole class get into a circle. And the kid who did this hurtful behavior has to hear from everybody in the class how they were affected by that hurtful behavior. And together with all those students, they think of what that person who committed this hurtful behavior could do to make an amend. And when I talk to people there, the kids who had done these hurtful things had really learned, and they had really changed their ways. They had done presentations for the schools on why gossip is so hurtful or why calling a kid gay is so hurtful. And many of them had been through 9 or 10 of these circles. And now, even in the playground, without any teachers being there at all, the kids would just circle up and they'd resolve their conflicts. So, yes, there should be consequences, but not consequences that are unrelated to what happened. They need to be consequences where everybody addresses what happened and considers, how can we make amends? How can we support the person who got hurt? And how can we learn from this experience so that it doesn't happen again?
No, absolutely, Jesse. And I'm going to play a clip really quick. Jesse, I want to get your thoughts on it. The tragedy of Amanda Todd. I want you to hear that story. And we're going to come back and get some comments on it. Here it goes right now.
What kind of person bullies a vulnerable child online? Most parents with an internet connection realize how naive that question sounds in this, the age of the troll. In fact, the more relevant question is what kind of person ridicules a child's memory even after she's taken her own life? Tonight, we have the story of a family asking just that after 3 years of hell that began with their 12-year-old, a webcam, and one bad decision. Here's ABC's Rena Ninan.
This is 15-year-old Amanda Todd's desperate cry for help.
So what would you think of me?
In this video, the high school student details 3 years of torment, bullying, and even, she says, classmates beating her up. 3 weeks after posting the video on YouTube, Amanda Todd committed suicide. Since her death, this video has been viewed more than 17 million times.
Why do you think it is that she snapped and felt the only way out was to take her life?
I think she snapped because she's just had so much going on. She just had enough, I guess.
We now know that her death was the culmination of a 3-year nightmare, one that started when she ventured onto a webcam site when she was 12. But the shocking thing, even Amanda's death hasn't ended the bullying that followed her from school to school as she tried to escape the torrent of online taunts. This weekend, a candlelight vigil in her memory as friends struggled to make sense of all of it.
She was just so happy all the time, and when you first meet her, you wouldn't know that she had any problems. I'll never be able to talk to her again.
Can I hear inside my head?
Here is another earlier video Amanda posted on her YouTube page.
You don't know what it's like.
It shows a young girl singing, full of life, like her idol, pop star Demi Lovato, who last week came to Amanda's hometown saying she too confronted bullying in school.
And I'm talking to you, whoever that is out there, and I'm telling you that this is an issue that we can beat. This is something that you can get through. And this is something that will not bring you down.
In that last video post, Amanda herself tells her story. When she was 12, Amanda went on a chat website. Someone asked her to flash her breasts. She did, and the person on the other side snapped a photo that opened a door to blackmail. He told me if I didn't put on a show, he'd send that photo to my friends, she says in the video, and that's exactly what he did.
On Christmas, police came to my door at 4 a.m. and said there's a Facebook image of me sent around.
And that's where the story takes an even darker turn. Instead of helping, she says her classmates began a campaign of cyberbullying. It was so merciless, she changed schools 3 times.
It got so bad, Amanda tried to kill herself by drinking bleach. She survived that attempt, but said that over the summer she overdosed on drugs. And finally, this month, she succeeded in taking her life.
So you could say it's okay, you're not alone, and I don't know, those words just stuck with me.
Austin Brown says he was bullied, and it was Amanda Todd who helped him through. He now wishes he could have done more to help her.
I called at least 3 or 4 times, and then I was about to call a 5th time, but then I looked on Facebook, and 2 of my friends have posted, "Rest in peace, Amanda Todd, you didn't deserve this."
The astonishing thing is the way in which the bullying has continued. As recently as today, ugly messages like these posted on Facebook and Twitter. I don't really feel bad for Amanda Todd. I think Amanda Todd misunderstood when I suggested bleach to sort out her mustache. The real tragedy is that I can't find her pics anywhere. And even this image of her. You thirsty? Clorox.
I take these words right off of her little video. Haters are haters. Please don't hate. It's choice. It's choice.
A cruel choice so many seem to feel free to make behind the mask of the internet.
Well, I guess it's just a power trip, I guess. Well, I'm not a psychologist, but just over the years they feel insecure and they try to, bring pain in others, vicariously. I don't know.
Amanda Todd's case also brought out another ugly side of the online universe. Some have turned the hunt for her predator into a cyber witch hunt. Someone claiming to be from the hacker group Anonymous released the name of a potential suspect. But police say it wasn't him, and the search is continuing.
Gather enough evidence to potentially identify an individual that may in some way have played a role in her ultimately making this terrible decision.
In life, Amanda Todd admired Demi Lovato's ability to overcome her bullying. She was planning to get the same tattoo that reads, "Stay strong." Now it's too late for that, and what's left are online images and the hope that her final message will help overcome the hate that was too much to bear.
Well, there you have it. Tragic. I mean, as you said, Dennis, the cry for help. Jesse, give me your thoughts on that. That is a heart-wrenching account of events.
It is, and unfortunately, it's very common. All the high-profile cases, Phoebe Prince, Megan Meyer, the same thing happened where kids would just say these vicious things even after these people committed suicide as a result of bullying. And again, I feel very strongly that it's the schools that could make a big difference. Kids are feeling right now more socially isolated than ever before. Social isolation has tripled since the 80s. Depression and anxiety have skyrocketed. And many people don't know how to develop real friendships and don't know how to support other people. And so the way they relate to other people in social ways is to have social power, is to bond with other people against people they think are weaker, and they literally don't have access to anything more positive and constructive. If schools would step in and create compassionate communities and teach empathy and help kids understand how much more rewarding and fulfilling it is to have real meaningful relationships, to move away from the popularity contests that are not about real support, but that are just, the social competition that hurts people's feelings constantly. I really think these kinds of things just would not happen because people would feel more supported and fulfilled. And what has happened is that our society has basically created a culture of misery. The statistics are very high among adults as well as among children, and schools no longer have the luxury of saying, we don't want to have anything to do with the emotional part of kids' lives. We just want to do the academics, because we can see kids are getting killed as a result of these behaviors. There's a lot that schools can do. Again, my program on creating compassionate communities.com. I go into schools. I teach empathy building games to teachers, to parents, to students. Help people connect to each other in deeper ways, help them support each other. When something like this happens, something so tragic, the school should turn itself upside down and try to get students to talk about, what they appreciated about the student, what they could have done to support the student, what they will do in the future to support anybody who's having a hard time. I mean, schools should make this their number one priority. And we need, city, state, and federal support to create policies and programs that help schools make this a priority, because these tragedies have been going on for a very long time now, and they are getting worse in numbers.
Oh, absolutely right. And I'm sitting here, Jesse, and to our listeners out there, 15 teen bullying cases with tragic ends. And states here, Angel Green hanged herself from a tree next to her school bus stop so that her bullies could see her in the morning. Early one morning in 2013, this 14-year-old from Indiana purposely hanged herself from a tree in front of her school bus stop so that her tormentors would see her lifeless, swinging corpse. She had allegedly pleaded as a slut and a whore, as well as enduring relentless teasing over the fact that her father had been jailed for hitting her. Her mother found a suicide note containing the following passages. Why did I deserve this pain? Have you ever thought about what you said to me? Maybe not, because you killed me every day. You told me so much that I started believing it, and I was stupid for doing that. Every morning, day, night, I look in the mirror and cry and replay the harmful words in my head. Does anybody have any comprehension of to our listeners out there, this is somebody's little girl. A mother had to grieve her daughter hanging from the fact that you had the state of mind to say, I need to send a message to those that brought me to this point, and to set out a destination in front of a school at a bus stop just to say, look what you did to me. This is the most tragic. Go ahead, Jesse.
Well, I would just say it's incredibly tragic, and it's the same as when school shootings and say they're doing this because of the bullying. I mean, some people turn the anger against others, and some people turn the anger against themselves. And I think, you made a very important highlight in this case, as well as in many other cases where this girl was called a slut and a whore. There was prejudice against what happened to her father. It's another thing that schools could do to prevent this is to really try to create more acceptance and support for differences. Many of the school shootings, most of the school shootings committed by girls were in response to being called slut or whore or something of that nature. Many of the school shootings committed by boys, over 50%, had to do with having their masculinity challenged or getting called gay or some slur about their sexuality. And schools don't want to deal with sexuality, but so many kids are attacked for not being whatever sexuality, other kids think they should be. And this is something that schools can do and say, how can we appreciate and accept whatever other people's choices are? How can we, a lot of school shootings and bullying are about race. How can we support each other's differences? schools just are not doing this work. And what happened to this child is so tragic and so upsetting. And again, over and over and over again, as a result of schools not taking on this responsibility, that prejudice and bias and bigotry are just considered normal aspects of bullying behaviors. And they're hate crimes. They're very serious hate crimes that are not taken seriously by schools.
No, absolutely. And you talk about heart-wrenching. I mean, the girl was 14 years old.
Yeah.
She didn't even live. Folks, feel free to dial into the show tonight, 646-200-0628, 646-200-0628. And, Jesse, you've given a lot of insight tonight. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're on the East Coast there. How can folks get involved with what you're doing? How do they contact you? I could continue this conversation with you for the next 4 or 5 hours if we could do it.
Yeah.
I really believe as I sit here tonight and begin to really digest this thing, it is the most heart-wrenching and troubling conversation, but you have to have it. And you have to get into the hearts of people to understand something has to be done as our kids are dying. And our culture has to be changed. If you begin to live in a culture of bigotry and bias and racism or whatever, any type of discrimination, because you're different, that's a problem. And again, I want to be respectful of your time. You've been great for this show tonight. We'd love to have you back on. If you're welcome to hang on if you want, we'd love to bring you back after the break. If not, we understand. It is New York time, I believe, almost 9:30 shortly there, but we want to be respectful of that. So
so people could reach me. I teach at Adelphi University, so I can be reached at Klein, Klein, at adelphi.edu. People could reach me through my website, creatingcompassionatecommunities.com. I do go into schools and I teach empathy to teachers and parents and students. So I'm very interested in helping any schools that are interested in doing that, or families. And there's tremendous amount of other resources. I think, people really need to focus on how can we create communities, how can we create supportive communities, and how can we eliminate the bigotry that has become so normal in our society. And I would love to help anybody who's interested in that kind of work. So thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Jesse, thank you for your service and what you're doing to help this problem. We salute you. We count you as an advocate hero, if you will, on the front lines of change. We appreciate you so very much. Anytime you need a voice here, you have a friend now and always at AJC Radio and the Just Cause organization. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye.
There you have it. Jesse Klein giving some clear insight to this problem. I'll tell you, William, when you sit here, and I'm going to come to you in a moment. Let's go ahead and bring our next guest on. We're honored to have her. I'm just going to say Michelle because I want to make sure we do not do any injustice to her name. And she is going to give her thoughts in regards to this discussion. And we're very happy to have her. I'm going to have her introduce herself. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Michelle, I did not want to announce your last name. So I wanted just to say,
go ahead and give it a try. Give it a whirl.
Here, and we have Millenniac?
Yes, that's perfect.
I got a little help there. Okay, good.
Really
Millenniac.
good.
Okay, thank you so much. As you know, I don't know how long you've listened to the show tonight. It's been a very heart-wrenching, emotional show as we've talked about the lives of children.
Right.
It is. I don't remember. I didn't see this when I was coming up. I'm 49 years old. I never saw this in my time coming up, and people were. Occasionally, you heard about a suicide. By every now and then. I remember one of my basketball teammates in 8th grade. We were getting ready for a championship game, and we came in. We were waiting for him to come in, and he never came in. And they came in and told us that he had shot himself after school that day. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Sound pretty bad.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, back in our day, the worst thing that you were afraid of when you went to school is like maybe you heard a rumor that somebody brought a pocket knife or, just basically getting into a fight. And kids used to, throw rocks and break windows and start fires. And now they shoot people. And, it's just a whole different world we're living in now.
Well, after talking to Jesse, was a great guest. Works for the University of Adelphi. Is it Adelphi, Dennis? I believe so. And she gave so much good perspective on it. What are your thoughts? It sounds like to me, and give me your thoughts on this, that the culture, the reason we're having such a difficult time getting past this is because the culture has become hateful. The culture of society has become more mean-spirited.
Right. Very angry.
Very angry. And I would have to believe that contributes to it. Give me your thoughts on that, and tell us, Michelle, how did we get here? I'm going to put a big task on your hands in this question. How did we get here?
Okay.
How do we find our way out? And how do we start saving our children?
I hope I have some answers. Let me give you a little bit of my background. And as you so eloquently pronounced, my name is Michelle Maliniak, and I am a licensed professional counselor and a retired firefighter. I was a firefighter in Tucson, Arizona for 22 years, and I've faced a lot of bullying and, harassment and that kind of thing. So I have a lot of experience from that angle of it. Bullying it's repetitive, intentional, cruel behavior. Its intent is to cause harm, and it's a power differential. So if somebody's physically stronger or they have more numbers or they have more influence, and they are, coming after somebody who's alone or different or weaker, that's what bullying is. So to answer your question about how did we get here, I think that a lot of it has to do with mental health. I mean, a lot of what we're seeing is so confusing and it makes absolutely no sense. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that, coming from a neurological background, I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. So I do a lot of studying of the brain and how it works and what we come up with as ways to cope. And we have a system in our brain that's the sympathetic nervous system, and it essentially makes us illogical. The left and the right side of the brain don't communicate well when we're upset and angry. And I think that more and more we're just seeing that because we don't have enough teachers aren't getting paid enough, the student-to-teacher ratio is insane. We've got a lot of kids that, their parents are really busy all the time. They're not getting the parenting and the nurturing. And we have a lot of really angry children growing up, and we also have a lot of really angry adults. And that's really a mental health issue. So I do think that if we were able to talk more about mental health, what it really means, how it is your brain that is what's guiding you in life, and how to take care of your brain, I think we'd be better off. There's definitely, there's ways to treat this kind of depression that we see with kids, but most importantly, the parents have to be willing to learn. They have to be willing to learn about what's going on with their kids, what's happening at school. They need to be able to listen. And the schools, just like Jesse was saying, I 100% agree, the schools have to step up. You need to have someone of a higher power that's going to say, this is not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Recently, with Harvey Weinstein, I was listening to an interview where Gwyneth Paltrow talked about how Brad Pitt, when she was dating Brad Pitt, and he was like the most powerful guy in Hollywood, he went into Harvey Weinstein's office and said, "Look, you made her uncomfortable, and if you do it again, I'm going to your boss." And it stopped for her. So we really need good leadership. We really need people that are going to set the tone. And that's my experience from being on the fire department, is that if the leader wasn't on board with stopping the bullying, it was just going to be pervasive.
Well, that speaks volumes. Yeah, Michelle, that speaks volumes. That Brad Pitt had the courage. You're talking about Mr. Weinstein.
And he's not only a bully, he's a sexual predator. I mean, not all bullies are sexual predators, but sexual predators are definitely bullies. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, the crazy part about that is if you bully people, to me, it just has different arms that can connect itself. If I bully you to give me your lunch money every day, then what's my next step? If I get the lunch money, then what else can I get? And then I begin to say, well, if I bully you for this, and like in Amanda's case, the guy said, I want you to take a picture of your breast. She's 12 years old. Is that correct? 12 years old. And says, take a picture. And if you don't, I'm going to shoot this everywhere. A means to an end for him, but the end of a life for her.
Right. Yes. In fact, I just got back from the International Women in the Fire Service convention, and the rate of suicide among female firefighters is just outrageous. I mean, I never heard of this, 20, 30 years ago. Well, there weren't a lot of women on the fire department back then, but suicide in general has become. What was I seeing? I think they were saying it was killing more people than accidents now. Suicide.
Yeah,
so we've got a serious mental health crisis.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly, Michelle. We're going to take a quick break. I don't know what your time is, availability. I'd like to bring you back so you can let folks know how they can get a hold of you if they need you. You've been very, very informative for us tonight. If you can stay, we'd love to bring you right back, get some closing thoughts from you, and deal with this issue. And we were talking about the 15. Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I do have some ideas that I'd like to shoot out there for people with children in school. Some different things that they can do that can help reduce their child's chance of getting bullied.
Okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity definitely to do that, and we're going to get ready to go to break. I want to share this very quickly. This is something. Number 6 on the list of 15 bullying situations that ended in tragedy. After posting a compassionate answer on ask.fm about how suicide is not the answer, Jessica Laney hanged herself. And like Hannah Smith, this 16-year-old Floridian killed herself after being harassed on ask.fm. On Thanksgiving Day 2012, an anonymous questionnaire on the site asked Jessica about her opinions on suicide. Her response: if you ever feel this low, I just want to say it's not your fault. People are mean. I know you feel useless, broken, not wanted, and alone. I was there, but I promise you it will get better. Nothing is worth it. It will all get better. But things didn't get better. She fielded hostile comments such as, you have pretty eyes, but you're fat. Can you kill yourself already? And nobody even cares about you. About 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Laney hanged herself. This is what we are talking about. This is a young lady who tried to give hope to those that had lost it. And people still remain cruel and mean. And if it tells us anything, we need to take a look in the mirror and say, what can I do to make sure I'm not contributing to this epidemic? To all those that we've talked about tonight thus far, our sincere condolences, no matter how long ago, go out to the families, because I guarantee you that pain has not left. And to the loved ones of these victims of bullying. And if there was a crime that should be called a crime, bullying should be one of them, because the end result in these cases was loss of life. This is AJC Radio. We'll be right back.
We have a big problem, and we need your help.
It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
Our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop. We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
it's a crime. It's wrong.
If I saw it happening and I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
Good morning, students, and welcome to Career Day. I hope you're excited to hear about all the great things you can do when you grow up.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily. I'm super excited to introduce my dad because he's my hero. When I was little, my dad was away a lot, but I was okay with that because he was doing this really important work driving ambulances in Iraq. Now he's at home, which is great for me because I get to see him every day now. And he's still the biggest hero I know because he tells all the ambulances and the fire engines where to go and rescue people when there's an emergency. I'm so proud of him. He's awesome. He's my dad.
If your service-connected disability prevents you from continuing in your civilian career, Voc Rehab offers counseling, training with a living allowance, education, and other services to help prepare you for your next mission.
You can't sit here.
Don't add her to the chain.
It was just a joke. We're not friends. Why are you talking to me? You started it. It's so gross. Lame. Loser. Weirdo.
I've said and done things before that I'm not proud of.
Just as I've been hurt by others. The thing is, this is not who I am. And it's definitely not who I want to be.
I don't want to be cruel. I don't want to spread gossip.
I don't want to be a body shamer. I don't want to exclude anyone.
I don't want to make anyone feel lonely,
left out, hurt. We have the power to be more. We can create a kinder world. It's not that hard. We just need to stop.
Take a moment and consider others before we speak.
And before we act. Be more.
Be more.
Be more.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can motivate your audience.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can teach your children.
I can boost your bottom line.
I can add value to your workplace. I could be a loyal and productive employee.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
If you don't recognize my talents and ability.
If you don't hire me. If you don't have an open mind and a workplace that's open to everyone.
If you don't realize that America works best when everybody works.
What can you do? What can you do?
What can you do?
You can remember that it worked.
It's what people can do.
It's what people can do that matters.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. You can't find out.
Ladies and gentlemen of America, this is AJC Radio. You've heard this song a couple of times, and it's been always about a need to rise up. Tonight we address an issue that we must rise up to fight. That is bullying across this nation, whether it be in our schools. And I'll tell you what, it's in our elementary schools, it's in our middle schools, it's in our high schools. Something has to be done. Because as we've learned tonight, lives hang in the balance from bullying. That's somebody's little girl who decided, that tells mom, don't put my picture up at my funeral. Because all they said is that I was fat. All they said is that I was ugly. And a teenager actually made that statement. A young girl. Something has to be done. And tonight we welcome back Michelle Maliniak, who has given some perspective in a very good way to this topic. And Michelle, thanks so much for coming back. And you had some things you wanted to share with our listeners as we get ready to go on to the next segment of this show. Please, I give you the floor.
Oh, thank you. Well, I completely agree with Jesse Klein, your earlier guest. We need to be teaching children empathy, and because people without empathy clearly have a mental health issue. And so the bullies actually need help too. And the way for them to get it is for them to get caught and, be educated and taught, about boundaries. And we need to get our kids strong too. We can teach other kids empathy, but this is a problem that's probably not going to go away anytime soon. So bullies will pick on loners, people who are different. You want to encourage your children to join groups and buddy up, even, trio up when they are going to be in situations where they can be vulnerable. You don't want them to be alone. So you want to get your kids to socialize and have alignment with other people and network. You want your kids to be strong. If your kid's getting bullied, one of the things I did when I was growing up was I worked out. And I got strong so that I wouldn't have to feel so vulnerable, and you don't look as vulnerable too. So there's all kinds of self-defense classes. A lot of police departments offer free self-defense classes. Taekwondo, Krav Maga, these are all really good techniques. And, if the word gets out that your kid has a black belt in something, the odds of them getting bullied are a little less. I think also we need to continue to educate people about mental health, and we need to get parents to come to therapy and counseling so they can learn what's going on with their kids. Depression is, really an epidemic, and a lot of people really don't know what it looks like or what it is. So more education about that. And the last thing is, I think we have to, like you were saying, we need more laws protecting people from not just workplace harassment based on gender, sexuality, race, religion, or age, but also just bullying. Sometimes that's how people, especially in the workplace, get away with this kind of behavior, is they keep it just under the radar of those areas so that legally they can do it. And we need to have examples. We need to have people who are willing to step up and defend people who are getting bullying or getting bullied. And unfortunately, I think one of the things we might end up having to do, Gabby Giffords and her husband, Mark Kelly, are doing a lot because Gabby Giffords was shot at the she was shot, and they're suggesting we harden the schools. And sad to say, but with the reality of what's happening, it should be like going on an airplane. You should have metal detectors, one way in, one way out. I mean, the horse is out of the barn with how many kids can get guns, and now angry kids don't break windows and set fires. They go to school and they kill their counterparts that they're mad at.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just some of the things that I would suggest. Also, I wanted to get the suicide hotline number out there.
Go ahead.
And yeah, it's 1-800-273-8255. That's a national suicide hotline. And there is help, and you're not alone. And, I just hope that if anybody out there is getting bullied today and they feel like life isn't worth living, they're starting to feel that terrible, hold on. It may seem like there's no end in sight, but the pain will pass if you get more help and keep getting help. You'll eventually find some relief. Because no feeling is permanent. Nothing is permanent.
Absolutely.
And killing yourself is actually a big risk. We don't know if death actually makes your pain stop. But some people are willing to do that. So, I hope that we can change the culture, but we also are going to have to deal with how the culture is already and get our kids in shape and ready to deal for the realities out there.
No, absolutely. And Michelle couldn't have said it better. We appreciate your efforts and your work that you do. You always have a friend and an ally here at AJC Radio, Just Cause organization. If you ever need a platform to speak, to get to listeners all across this nation, around the globe, please don't hesitate to get a hold of us. I'll be in touch with you offline. And definitely stay in touch as we can work together and bring this epidemic in some way, if we can, to an end. And I appreciate you and salute you for your hard work. You're an unspoken advocate. People don't like that title all the time, but what you do is making a difference, and that means everything. So we appreciate your work and what you do.
Well, thank you very much, and kudos to you for having this program and getting the word out there, because that's the most important thing, is getting
Absolutely.
people to understand what bullying is and learning ways to make it not work anymore. That's probably what we're going to have to do. We just need to make it not the way that it's going to work.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. And, Michelle, we'll be in touch, and there'll be some things down the road, community events we'll be actually being involved with. May have an opportunity to have you come out and speak to the community here possibly down the road as we look for opportunities and ways. We appreciate you so much. And take care and enjoy the rest of your evening, okay?
Thank you so much. You too.
Right. Take care. And there you have it, folks. Michelle Maliniak really doing some things. I think what hits me tonight more than anything is the contemplation of suicide by Ebony Robinson's daughter, Ava, at the age of 7. The age of 7. I don't even remember what I was doing at the age of 7. Do you know what that says about our culture, about our society? If a girl is 7 years old, in most cases, the school has pretty much control, you would think, in an elementary school, William, at that age, to really control a lot of things, to keep things, if my teacher looked at me wrong, number one, I didn't want to get in trouble by mom at home. But at that age, you're very teachable to say, hey, don't pick on her. Leave her alone. Don't do that. And I can't grasp a 7-year-old
right
contemplating suicide. I'm here thinking, well, maybe she's a little old. 7.
When we opened the show, there was, and this was, the 8-year-old boy that made news. He committed suicide after being bullied, and they showed video on that. And you're thinking exact same thing. These are second and third graders. They're just starting in the school system, and it's like, what are they being introduced at kindergarten and first grade that is causing them to think like this? Like I'm 8 and I don't want to go on. I'm 7, I want to go on. But as Michelle was talking, one of the things I think as a parent, we need to be more in tune with our children, and we need to be there so they can come to us and say, hey, listen, they have to. We have to be that first line of defense, because if the school's not listening to them, we have to listen to them. We're guardians, and we have to watch out for them.
National Day of Action Against Bullying, Standing Up Against Bullying, is tomorrow, June 13th. Be a part of that, whatever community events. We're going to hear a little bit about that right now, and here we go.
Today is a National Day of Action Against Bullying. Here at Santa Sabina, we are committed to educating students on how to take action against bullying and how to develop respectful relationships with others.
Bullying is the ongoing misuse of power, and it can take up many forms like social, verbal and physical behaviour, which then can lead to physical and psychological harm. It can involve individuals and even groups, and it can take up the form of in-person and online, which then can make it obvious or hidden.
Bullying can have a long-term effect on those involved, including bystanders.
Treat each other with kindness and share things with each other.
We treat each other with respect and we don't make fun of people's personalities.
We treat each other with kindness and we don't make fun of their appearance.
On the playground, we should treat each other with respect. None of us would like to come to school each day knowing that someone is going to be there bullying us and disrespecting us. Even if we get bullied, we should try and promote positive behaviours to everyone else, because if someone does something wrong to you, doesn't mean you treat them the same way back. We should all treat each other equally and with respect in how we would like to be treated.
We should treat each other the same online. And remember that if your granny wouldn't like what you're saying, don't say it at all. And also that also goes for posting things online. We need to treat each other with respect, because once you've put something online, you can't get it back.
Don't laugh. Only when someone tells you a joke. You know that, right? Right, guys?
If I saw bullying happen in the playground, then I would make sure that the person is okay, and I would try to help them out and tell a trusted adult so that they can get the help and support that they need.
I would stand up for them and say leave them alone. I would go tell the teacher and then tell them to not do it again.
As Santa Sabina students, it's our job to make sure that everyone feels welcome and at home here. And so that we can prevent bullying, we need to make sure that we're always truthful and we follow our motto, and that we never make anyone feel unwelcome.
To involve yourself in campaigns like this to raise awareness about the topic.
And I think in saying that as well, I think it's important for all the students to participate in these campaigns and national events, because it allows us to kind of build that sense of community and build those stronger relationships between the students, and that will make it a lot easier for us to help each other when we're experiencing bullying and difficult situations like that.
If you see bullying happening, you either ignore them or walk away and tell them to stop. Then you can go to a safe spot and ask friends. You have to avoid responding because they're just trying to get a reaction out of you. You can report and block them so it doesn't happen to anyone else. And remember to keep on your privacy settings and keep records.
You should probably stop through negative comments and don't join in with them if they're in person or online. You should also be courageous and stand up for the person who's being bullied and support the person who's being bullied as well. You talk to a parent or trusted adult or teacher or whoever can help you stop bullying. You need to definitely make sure that the person's getting support throughout the whole process, and know that you're never alone and there's always someone who can help you.
At lunchtime today, we will be in the piazza making a pledge wall. Here you can contribute to the school community to make a pledge against bullying among our peers. Come down, make a pledge, and be part of making a difference. Today is the day we say no to bullying.
Ladies and gentlemen of America, if you're wondering where you're at right now, it's AJC Radio dealing with an issue tonight, cyberbullying, and I'll tell you what, we've had an opportunity to speak to some fantastic people tonight, give us some insight on this epidemic, this problem. Very special thanks to Michelle Maliniak, Jesse Klein, and also Ebony Robinson. And a special thanks to Ava for having the courage, Ebony Robinson's daughter, who has suffered a lot at the age of 7 and has had an opportunity to thank God for her mother to get involved and to be a voice that refuses to be silent. A very special thanks for this show. We'll be visiting again. Feel free to go to our website. You can hear the show around the clock. All shows are archived there at ajcradio.com. Right now, we turn the page to the RP5. Some people think that business is a game. And what we have learned is that business actually is war.
My name is David Banks, and I'm serving an 11-year sentence at the Federal Correctional Complex Prison Camp in Florence, Colorado. I've lost everything. My business, my money, my family, my future, my church, and my freedom.
When they wanted people to sign non-disclosure agreements and all that kind of stuff, sometimes they didn't want to do it.
Strange to me. I think it's still strange. It absolutely makes no sense. Is this really real? Is this happening? And then all of a sudden your whole life is ripped apart.
Justice is not fair anymore. They say justice is supposed to be blind. It's not blind. It's not blind. They pick and choose who they want to convict and who they want to send.
Ladies and gentlemen of America, what is going on when innocent men get locked away? Ladies and gentlemen, have you stopped to ask the question, where is justice? It's far away.
They were floored that they were even being raided.
It became very clear that the court-appointed attorneys were not working for the guys. And it seemed like in many cases that they were collaborating or working with the prosecution.
We constantly hear in the news, every week you're going to hear about another person wrongfully convicted.
There you have it. Tough questions in need for answers. Lady Justice has gone missing. Where is she? Is this happening in America? The American dream has turned into a nightmare. Crying children left behind as a result of a corrupt system and corruption. We will seek and search for justice. We will ask the tough questions. We will demand answers as justice lays idle in the streets of America. We look for the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, the IRP5, innocent men, David Banks, Dave Zappolo, Demetrius Harper, Kendrick Barnes, and Clinton Stewart, wrongfully convicted. Tonight, this segment is dedicated to an upcoming show, Thursday, June 15th, I believe, is the date, where we will be discussing the corruption of federal judge Christine Arguello, a sitting judge on the bench. And research is it's the 14th, that's happening this Thursday, folks. We're going to discuss not only that, but also from Officer of the Court Attorney Patricia B. Collins from Collins & Collins, LLC law firm, who has basically slandered in a report to the appellate court, a response, if you will, slandered Pastor Banks, along with federal judge Christine Arguello. We hear the word a lot of times right now called collusion. We got it right here with the federal sitting judge. We're going to address that issue, and we're going to take the mask off this judge. And I'll tell you what, the things that have been done in this case regarding the RP5 are horrendous. Mr. Gary Walker, I call him the modern-day Benedict Arnold, betrayer of trust, and one of the most horrific liars of our time, for one purpose, a get-out-of-jail-free card, and as a result has lied upon lied upon lied. We're going to address his lies. One of them being this, that the Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, He was in fear for his life as the churches sought to unrelease documents, to get documents released, rather than have been sealed by federal judge Christine Arguello, who in a rant of a consistent statement of lies began to say that Gary Walker was in fear of his life. He cannot unseal this because he fears for the safety of him and the defected church members who are no longer members of Colorado Springs Fellowship Church. We're going to get into all of that. And the question we're going to leave with you tonight, folks, Mr. Walker, provide one police report in 35 years of ministry by Pastor Banks in the Colorado Springs Fellowship Church, of one police report of harassment, one police report of threats that were made to you or to those that have left the ministry over the period of 30 years. You know what? You're not going to be able to find it because it doesn't exist. We will unveil the corruption and the collusion between Patricia B. Collins. And I'll tell you what, folks, to me, the acts of this judge and of this attorney, they should be disbarred and removed from the bench permanently. That is how heavy and how serious the actions have gone on in regards to this case. And this show is dedicated, as every show will be, and is, as we speak, to the IRP-5. There comes a time you have to be a voice, you have to speak out. And I'll tell you what, judges are not above the law. And I'll tell you what you've done, Federal Judge Christine Arguello, is shameful. And it's right down criminal. And for Patricia B. Collins to call Pastor Banks someone who coerced the IRP-5 or these men into a crime based upon a lie of Gary Walker, you should be disbarred. Because not one conversation has happened. And also to the two psychologists we'll be talking about on Thursday who made an assessment of things that are simply untrue and did not make one interview or one phone call to Pastor Banks to make an assessment. Your license should be stripped for misconduct. This is all happening Thursday, June 14th. Tune in. Till next time, America, good night.
Bullying and teasing has become an epidemic. None of us can stay silent any longer.
It's time to stop humiliating people because they're different.
Bullying has to stop, and it has to start with you.
Think about somebody beating up on you or bullying you for some choice that you've made in your life.
We need to stop thinking it's okay to make someone feel bad about who they are.
Teasing someone because they're different from you isn't funny.
You may not think that what you say can have an effect on someone, but it does.
If you're a bystander, make sure to step in and, help out.
Be a hero. Stand up for someone who needs your help. Don't let bullying take another kid's life.
If you see it, try to stop it, report it.
If you're being teased and you feel alone, I want you to know you're not alone.
If you need help, reach out.
There are people out there ready to help.
To get help or to find out how to help, go to lmtv.com and please be kind to one another.